Thing that anybody wants to specifically ask at the moment? Any questions that anybody wants to ask before I get started? No? Okay. Good to see you all. And I'd say that I did a training a little while back about title splitting. And title splitting is a really, really great way to increase values of properties. So, because I've been asked by a number of people to redo that, so I'm doing that this evening. And as I say, happy to do whatever people want, but if you could help us to put it in the chat what you'd like, if it's finance related, if it's property related, mindset related, happy to cover all those subjects. So I've been in property for those that we're just meeting this evening. If some of you I know for a long time, and it's great to see you here. If I'm just meeting you for the first time, I'm a buy and hold property investor. Let me go back to that one. So I'm a buy and hold property investor, which means that I buy properties, I do them up, and I rent them out. Very, very simple business model. Buy the property, do it up, rent it out, and then refinance later. So continue that process. And I've been doing that for over 3 decades. And that's given me a good portfolio then to do other things in like developments and conversions and things like that. Nothing exciting here. So, you can see properties here, standard 2-3 bedroom houses, 4-bedroom houses, 3-bedroom houses. There's a little shop there. Again, little commercials are great. This is our office where I'm coming to you from this evening. And just behind our office, there was a small shop. And at that time, it was a hairdresser's. I paid 40 grand. It's on our doorstep. So the little commercials are great. And standard 2, 3, 4-bedroom houses. We've got some 1-bedrooms, etc. Then we went into larger projects. This is a church conversion in Dover. It's now completed. There are 9 apartments. And this one here shows as it was before. And then what you have is we're putting 2 levels. Top floor has 2 flats. Middle floor has 3 flats. And the ground floor, there was 4. So that was 9 in total. And I'll show you the pictures of that and what happened to that later on, because it explains the title splitting a little bit more.
Wait, let me get that.
If you could just mute yourself, that'd be great. And so, as I say, we have a portfolio of properties here in Sittingbourne in Kent, and we have a portfolio in Stoke-on-Trent. Got a few dotted around, one in Wales or a couple in Wales, Reading and places like that. The majority of the stock is down here in Sittingbourne, and we manage it through all this through our estate agency, through family homes. So we manage our own properties and we manage those of other landlords. What it gives us is a real great presence in the market in a very, very small area, and we're able to manage lots of units, lots of different things. Our company's called Family Homes, but we do a lot of commercial as well. So tomorrow morning I'm going out to 2 commercial offices, and then I've got to go to a coffee shop afterwards that the gentleman wants to sell. So we do sales and lettings. So it gives you an idea of the stuff that we're doing. After sort of the buy-to-let portfolio, the estate agency, the conversions, I've gone into sort of land planning and gaining planning on land and trying to sell those in development. So yeah, different businesses for different times. But increasing value by title splitting and creation of titles is a real great way to do things without having to get builders in, without having to do various things. After you've done that, you can do this. And so this is one that we've done previously. So this is Corals, just about 7-8 miles down the road from here. Upstairs was an office that we converted into 4 flats, and at the back there was some land. So these are the flats that were converted, and you can see there, new lease, sold as new lease on a 125-year lease. And in the back of the main building, there's a courtyard which we built 3 separate flats, and then one we sold without even doing the work, but we split the title. So these are some of the questions that you may sort of ask. What is the title? What is the title deed? Because the title and a title deed are 2 separate things, or title and a deed and a plan are 2 different things. What is freehold? What is leasehold? why create additional titles, what are the benefits of creation titles, and what can be split. Uh, what sort of properties, what do I need? Do I need to obtain permission? You don't need to obtain permission, but I'll cover that in a bit. What is the process of the title splitting, and what are the costs involved? So they're some of the things. So any ideas? What is property? What is UK property title? So all land and property in the UK is registered. I say all, it's not all registered actually. There are some bits that are not registered, and that is an opportunity and a separate thing that you could look at. But um, there is a government organisation called a land registry, and it registers the titles of properties. Very similar to, in principle, it's the same as land registry is the same as the DVLA for motor vehicles. Now you all know that motor vehicles, most of them should have a logbook. That's the title on a property. It's the same principle. It tells you where the property is registered, well, the address of the property, who the owner is, if there's any debts on it, if there's any charges on it. Charges meaning that somebody has put on the land registry that this property owes money, or the owner of that property owes money to somebody else. We actually have restrictions on our land registry titles. So what that means is that if somebody comes along and tries to change anything on our title, tries to sell that property from underneath us, land registry will inform us. They will write a letter. So recently, our accountant here, Brian, and I were having, and Wayne from DIY Finance, we've been doing some remortgages. So the solicitors at the remortgage say, um, yeah, we can do this remortgage for you. We can do the finance. We can do the remortgage process, the legal process. However, there is a restriction on your title, which means you'll have to go to a solicitor with your passport, get them to confirm who you are in order for you to be able to do this transaction. We know it's you, but we have to go through there. To get that restriction on land registry, it's free, or it used to be free, so do look into it, because if anybody comes along and they try to do anything to your property, then that you will be alerted. So it's an anti-fraud system. But then when you do come to do it yourselves for real, yeah, you're going to have to pay a solicitor. And in this case, I think I paid £180, and we were doing 4 properties at the same time. So it was one letter, not a big deal. So yeah, the drivers and the vehicles, licensing agency in Swansea governs vehicles, and the um, they issue a logbook, etc., etc., as you know, that you can keep at home. Land registry records are very similar. Owner of the land or property, land and property, and it's the same principle as the vehicle. And we have a logbook, which is called the title, and it's got a number on it. And that number basically relates to that property and the paperwork. So you will hear about a title, and you will hear about a plan. The plan is the actual plan of the street showing, and the red line around it to show that's what you own. But there are 2 documents that you need to look at, and those 2 documents need to correspond in terms of the title number, that it will be the same title number. Title number being very much like a logbook number on there. So the registration of UK property deeds is kept. So it shows this information, as I've just explained: the title number, who owns the land or property. Could be an individual, could be a number of people, could be a company or organization, it could be a government body, or it could be a charity. So whoever owns it, and this is great information if you're trying to get hold of that person. How much was it sold for the last time? Whether the property has a mortgage lender on there, and if one more the lenders, then there's a list of lenders. So there's a lot of information on there. I've already covered the restriction on land registry, that you can put restriction covenants on there. We also have properties that we rent to Serco in Stoke-on-Trent, and they take them for a 7-year period, etc. And they have restrictions on our titles, so they know that I've got a contract with them, and so I can't just decide to go, well, I'm going to sell the property to somebody else because I feel like it. There is a restriction on the title, which means that I need to notify them before I do anything, and I would notify them anyway, but there is a legal requirement around it. So you can see here the title number at the top, and then the seller on this one, he was selling, and then it registers to the buyer. The new details of the buyer is there, so that's all shown on land registry. And these records you can obtain by going to land registry portal and putting in the details. And I think we pay £6 for the title and the plan, the title and the plan. So this is an image of a plan. This was actually the church in no, this wasn't the church. This was well, I don't know where I got this plan from, but it is one of ours. But this is you can see the area of property there, and that's the title plan. So you can see that that's the part that we were looking at. And at the top, you've got a number K777227, which would relate to the actual title being the paperwork. Is there any questions so far? Anybody want to unmute or?
So Neil, price of a title search now £7 for a title search, £7 for the plan.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, thank you, Doug. Yeah, I don't know if we were on a package or something or a contract before, but yeah, that's what we were paying. Maybe it's just gone up, but thank you for that. So yeah, everybody's trying to double their money, aren't they? By going in, it's not £6 for both; it's £7 each now. So, in addition to the title deed, there's a plan which I've just gone through, and it just shows the information. And there's the information. I need to update my slides, Doug, because it was £3 each. Doug's saying it's £7 now each, and then you've got the actual website there. But the land registry is often slow, but they're very good. When I've phoned up and I've gone, can I have some help? They're very good. So do give them a call. You may have to wait a little bit, but do give them a call. So freehold, leasehold. Land is always freehold, and then the property that sits on it can be freehold or leasehold. So what that means is the building that you're purchasing, if you purchase the whole building and the land, it's freehold. If you're purchasing within a block and let's say there's 6 flats and you own one of the flats, it's going to be a leasehold. Now leasehold on the one I just showed you before, I said we created a 125-year lease because it increases the value by the number of years. But there are, like I've got a couple here in Sittingbourne where the developer had built a load of apartments and etc., etc. And what they've done is that they've created 999-year leases, so it's virtually freehold in terms of the value. There's no management company, and we don't pay a ground rent. But that's the only one. He said the longer the leasehold, the longer the leasehold, the better. So freehold meaning free from any holdover from anybody else being involved, basically. So you own the land and you own the building, and you can do which you want to do, apart from, of course, getting planning permission if you're going to do things that are outside. If it's a leasehold situation, which I'll come on to, you do need to get leasehold holders' permission. And freehold, you don't normally have to pay any ground rent. You don't have to, because you own everything that's in your title. Leaseholds, on the other hand, leaseholds can be, the benefit is they are cheaper in respect of compared to a freehold. Some people will say, "Oh, we'll never buy a leasehold because we then have to pay a management company, and you have to pay ground rent as well." Some of these charges, you really have to be careful. If they're small guys, then the charges are not too bad. But I have had housing associations. Again, I've got one with a housing association, and they were charging loads and loads of money, and then we went back and questioned it. So you do need to be careful. Typical leases at 99 years, 125, 250, or 999 years. The lower the lease period, the less value in the property. We're just selling one at the moment, just down the road here. Lease, I think, is 70 years, and because of that, the value of that property is is less than the property next door, which has a full 125-year lease on it. So title creation or splitting titles, dividing properties up, it is a great way to say, look, you can take one larger unit and then you can put in additional values. So in the instance that you get, I mean, the brokers here and the other investors will tell you, if you have a block of 6 flats on one title, that is going to be of less value because you're looking for a buyer that can buy all 6 units and they want 6 units at one go. So then you can't split individuals. If you split it, then the value goes up because you can then sell each apartment at a better value. So it's easier to sell, basically. It's easier to sell a smaller piece of land or one apartment rather than a block of 6 because if you're going to sell a block of 6, it's normally an investor you're selling to and they're looking for bulk discount. And if it's a single title, you can get a family or somebody starting out, so your market is much broader. So having single titles gives you better control. I'll show you the Beacon Church, which I've just done some title splitting, and there what we're doing is we've got 9 apartments, and rather than getting 9 mortgages with the same company, we've gone to different companies, split our risk, split their risk, and we're getting full market value, not an apartment block value. So these are the things that can be split. Land can be split, developments can be split, and I can show you some diagrams in a minute. So large plots of land can be split, commercial units can be split, and so it doesn't have to be just leases or commercials. So you can split 2 things into you can split one thing into 2 or 3. Estate planning as well. It's great to have separate titles because then you can it's easier to sell, dividing the title up, and the owners can be specific. If there's family involved, you can create 2 leases for 2 apartments. If you've got 2 heirs, you can give them 1 each. So again, that's a good opportunity. So when you title split, you also get you splitting the titles from the land itself as well. So there can be 2 or 3 splits in the same time. And there's no restriction on the number of splits that you can do at the same time. So you're maximizing the value. This is the point of doing this exercise, maximizing the value. Each part sold separately or developed individually the land it maximizes the value. And as brokers will know again, the brokers will say to you, yeah, it's easier to get a buy-to-let mortgage on a single unit than a number of units together. Oh, sorry about that. Let me just go back to that one. So yeah, I've covered this before, that a landowner may wish to sell part of the building and keep part of it. So we've just brought the office next door to us, and at the moment it's going to be an office downstairs, and we're going to put an apartment upstairs. So I could sell the apartment on a long lease and get my money back of what I paid for the property, and then I get the ground floor for free. So that is an opportunity that I would look at, or we may just keep it because it's on our doorstep and we create we benefit from the rental income. So lease creation, yeah, increase in value, easier to finance, gives you more choices, and it's also it can be very tax efficient as well if you're moving properties around. Downsize, it does involve a legal process in order to transfer one part of the building or to create a lease or to have persons or property or company. So there are legal costs, and you always need 2 parties to a leasehold, which is the freeholder or the head leaser and the lease. So there are 2 parties. There are professional fees, which could be architects and things like that. So, but we're not talking lots and lots of money here. We're talking a couple of £1,000 in order to do these things. There may be tax implications, tax considerations, finance costs, etc. But In a development situation, you could be talking thousands of pounds, where in title splitting, it's not, you're not talking thousands, but you're talking small amounts of money in order to gain lots of value. So large undeveloped land can be attractive for title splitting. So if you can't sell large bits of land, then you may split it into smaller parts. And again, that is very good. We've just done this, and I'll show you a picture of that in a second. So where land has got planning and you want to sell part of the planning to a developer and part to a normal household, again, so there are opportunities there. So this is one that we've done recently in Sittingbourne, about in Newington. So this is a bungalow with it was on the side there was an orchard, and this is the orchard. We've got planning for 10 units. So this is a better picture. You see the bungalow here, and here there are trees, but this is another plot here, and then around the outside we have a development of 10 apartments. Sorry, 10 houses that are going here with a new road coming in. So we were trying to sell this whole development, and we were struggling. So then we title split into this. So you can see here, this is the bungalow that we've drawn a red line around. And so an architect has got this drawing. They've designed. It was the same architect that designed the plans. They've got the drawing. They've got a red line here, which I basically got a red pen and a ruler, and I drew that line saying this is where I think it should go. There's nothing majorly technical. Then if you look at the next one, the piece of land in the middle, this here is the red line that shows this hasn't got planning. The bungalow, this hadn't got planning, but this is for sale for 100 grand. And you can see on the road they would come in here, and one house come in here, and you can get two houses here, just as they have done here. So that is still there. But we only went for planning for 10 on this one. So there's one split which I showed with the bungalow. This is the second split, and this is the third split. So on this particular piece of land, there are 3 title splits. One around the bungalow, one around the piece of land that we need to get planning permission on, and the third where the planning permission has already got. And the objective is that because we weren't able to sell it all in one go, by splitting the title of the bungalow, we had somebody come along and they said, yeah, we would like to buy the bungalow, but we're not in the development business. There was actually a guy, he was always drove past it and said, yeah, I want a project to do a bungalow up. So we sold that for 350,000. And then the piece of land next to is for sale, and the development here is for sale for 1.2 million for the 10 houses. We had got a buyer on it for the whole lot, but then when he pulled out, we decided to do this paperwork exercise. And the great thing is, this is a paperwork exercise, and the architect does the drawings, and the solicitor then creates the leases and registered the title at the land registry. So the bungalow here was 111 Newington High Street, which had its own title number. Then the development will have its own, they will create a new title number for that. And the piece of land in the middle, they will create a title number for that. The land registry creates the title number. We just need to provide the correct paperwork through the solicitors and the architect. So that although I said I drew the red line, yes, I did on the drawing, but the architect then formed it into the proper drawings that it should be. So I showed you this picture before, and we created 4 flats, 4 leases that we were able to then sell separately. And that's the back of that building that you've just seen. And here are 3 other apartments. So over time, we were able to sell each apartment and get our money back. So yeah, creating leases that was the thing. This is the church in Dover, and you can see here that we've maintained some of the features, but that's what it was like before, and that's what that window you can see on this drawing right at the back is that window there once it's all completed, and all the windows that were in the church we've maintained. This is a shower room, we couldn't take the windows out. The windows had to be maintained, so the only windows that are new are in the roof line. So this here is again a land title split where I showed you before it was a land that was split. Then I've shown you something that you can split the properties into the different apartments by creating leases. This this was the Beacon Church. So you can see here London Road Methodist Church. So the red line shows all of the area that the church people owned. And what they've done is they said, yeah, we want to keep all of this red line apart from what's in the green. So they sold off a part and they've then numbered it TT48511. So the overall title is this one here, K8669. But out of that, they've taken that and they've sold that part off. And they've got money back in order to maintain the rest of the land and whatever. There was a hall there and they needed the money to maintain the hall and carry on their church services. So the church people moved from the church because it's too expensive to keep repairing. They moved and then they sold off part of it. This is the inside of it. So again, we had planning, which we had drawings, and then from the planning drawings we had building drawings, and from the planning drawings again we were able to send an architect down to say, right, can you create these images that show the different areas. So apartment number 3 here in an orangey browny color, you can see that's one apartment. The yellow apartment number 4, that's this one here, and this is the blue one, and then so there's 4 on this level. So whilst we're here, let me just go through this because this could be a really good thing. This one here, the yellow one, is 2-bedroom apartment. So 2-bedroom apartment, you've got a bathroom here in the corner, and here is the kitchen, where I hope you can see the cursor. This is a kitchen living room space. Kitchen living room space. So the door to this bedroom was coming into the kitchen, and then so if there was a fire, they'd have to come out of the bedroom and then come into the area which potentially the fire would be the greatest risk, and then go back out, and this was the exit. So building control weren't happy with that. So although we got it through planning, building control weren't happy with that. So now we decided to put the door here, so that the bedroom door is here, and this is blocked off. So in the event of a fire, the person would go straight out and out. They would be able to go straight from their bedroom, not into the living room, but straight out. So these are the things that it can change once you actually start building, etc. But this is ground floor. You can see there's 4 apartments, 4 leases. Each one has a different title number on there, and each one has its own plan. So we would submit, and this is the next floor. So we would submit this to Land Registry with a request for a solicitor saying, this is the drawings, this is what we'd like to do, and then there is paperwork, and this is the top floor. So 9 in total, 8, 9, 9 in total. So as I say, it's not actually complicated because once you've got the plan, and there are loads of packages online anyway, you've got your building. You can split it up into different colors, put red lines around them, and then you just number it to let Land Registry know, and you make an application via solicitor. Solicitor creates a lease document. We created one lease document 2 years ago, and we've used that 30 times. Because why would I, as an investor, want to pay 30 different things? Why would I want to have different leases where I don't know what's in each lease? We paid the lease for once, and then we duplicated it. So if you've got buy-to-let portfolio, can you create leases in your portfolio? Because we did. We looked at our properties and said, yeah, we could create 2 leases there. Even with as I said, we just bought a shop next door, and at the moment it's just one office. Once we create a flat upstairs and a downstairs, we'll create 2 leases. So it's the same lease that's going to be going forward. Second. Yeah, so there's a load of information there, which I've gone through very, very quickly. I'm happy to take questions. If there's anybody got any questions, or if there's any other general questions that people have got, but if it's around title splitting, and Wayne, if you wanted to come in with any finance stuff, happy for you to do so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I guess one thing I was going to point out is that, look, guys, I guess it makes sense. Title splitting works not just because of the added value, it's a paper exercise to create an added value, but it's also about splitting your risk, and not keeping all your eggs in one basket. If we go back to pre-recession days, there were a couple of lenders in the market that were very, very prevalent, and some of you remember, Mortgage Express, and the problem that you found is that hidden in amongst the dozens and dozens and dozens of pages of your mortgage terms and conditions, you found that some of these lenders had all monies clauses and cross collateralization clauses, and what that meant is that they had the ability to say to you, right, well, what I'm going to do, you've got 25 mortgages with us. And what we want to do, you want to repay one of those mortgages. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, well, yeah, we'll allow you to redeem that mortgage, but we want 100% of the proceeds of sale. Or in the event that you were taking away perhaps a larger proportion of the properties with them, taking away the good properties, leaving them with the kind of perceived less competitive properties, they could say, well, actually, we want you to redeem all of the debts in order to take those properties away. So, by splitting down the title, you kill kind of two or three birds with one stone. You increase the value of the assets. You spread your risk amongst multiple different lenders, and you've just not got just one asset that's mortgaged to one lender. And you also create the ability to say, okay, well, look, these 4 flats, I know I'm going to keep for the long haul, so I want a nice 5-year fix on those. But these two, I'm not too sure what I will do in the long haul on those. Perhaps I'll let those as serviced accommodation, so you get a specific product for those. Perhaps those two you intend to do further works to, and in which case you want something a little bit more short term, but it just gives you that flexibility. You're not creating one product over the whole building. That was one thing I was going to mention. Yeah, I think that was it really. So no.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant, and I think you summed it up really well about the 3 parts to it and what you can get for it, and increasing value, etc. Anybody want to unmute? I mean, part of our aim for doing this is to get people asking questions, so that if people ask questions, there's loads of experience in the room, and then yeah, you can gain from that knowledge. I mean, I just think John Parker, he's helped me out tremendously over the years, valuer, surveyor, etc. So some of the times when you're creating the leases, land registry will ask you what is the value, or the solicitor will ask you what the value is. Now, the true value is really important. It's not what the value you think, but from a tax perspective as well, you need to get the right value, and that's where John comes in and says, right, this is the value of your property that you've created. So yeah, there's experts in here, like John. So if you've got any questions, then please feel free to unmute or raise your hand, and I'll come to you.
I think there's one in the chat, Sano, about how much did it cost us title split. I assume that's just solicitors' fees, is it?
Yeah, it's I'd say between 2,000 to £2,000 to £4,000, depending on the solicitor, because the architect's going to take some fee to create the drawings, and once that's been done, there's a lease creation, there's the registration. But it's depending on the size of the building, the more you do, of course, you get your economies of scale as well, which is great. And so this is different. This lease creation and title splitting is different to lease extensions, which Lee Glover may be interested in as well, increasing the leases because of the leases that he may hold. So this is different where you're creating lease. But yeah, I'd say I know I've paid solicitors maybe £1,000, architects £1,000, and then you're registering it. but it all depends on volume as well. So
Cash has made a really good point here. So guys, if the lease is, because what you're doing effectively, when you're creating a lease, you're transferring the ownership, or the point is you can't create, the law states you can't grant a lease to yourself. So there's a contract law, you can't put a contract between yourself and yourself. You can't force obligations and grant rights to yourself. So when you do this, generally speaking, it will be in a company structure. And if it's in a company structure, when you create the freeholds owned in a company structure, then it's much easier to do the title split, because you'll create a group structure. And as Cash has said here, if the freehold's in a company and you're granting leases to, or moving the freehold out and granting leases back to the same entity, if the two companies that own the assets, i.e. the company that owns the freehold and the company that owns the leasehold titles is to own the leasehold titles, are in a group structure, then you're mitigating against SDLT. There are reliefs against SDLT and CGT. If this is in your personal name, then my understanding is it can be far less advantageous, because there's no group structure to avoid that SDLT liability.
yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Wayne. Good to see you, Cash. Great contribution there as well. Thank you.
Hi, Sunil.
Another question. Sorry, go.
Hi, you okay? Just to add on to that, what we see a lot of our clients doing is they're buying the block on a bridge typically. So if they have a block of flats, and if the access is separate and if the utility is separate, but if it's on one title, they buy with a bridge, and then on a bridge, then they split the title during the term, and then they refinance. So they've added paper value. Sometimes they have to do the refurbishment, but that's a better way of actually entering the project. If you don't have cash, of course, if you can buy cash, it's all better. But buy with bridge, split the title, do the refurb and the refinance.
Yeah, brilliant, Cash. Thank you. Just to give you an example, I mean, I have just by the station here in Sittingbourne, I brought an office, and we've converted it into 6 flats. Then we converted the basement, that's the 7th. We've now got planning to go on top, which is 8 and 9. Okay. Honestly, when we brought it to auction, I was thinking I paid too much, it was all wrong, and I didn't do certain things. It does come right, but it stages. I didn't see 9 apartments when I first started that. It's just an office, and we'll do something with it. So it will change. You can add value over time. You don't have to add value all on day one. So the value there is the planning, the splitting of the apartments, and then I'm with a lender, one lender. It's a commercial loan on the property. The value on the 6 apartments, the total value was £900,000. They would only lend 400, because to them the value of that building as a 6 apartments on one title is of less value than if it was split. So now we will do the split, and once we do the split, we'll get back to the original value of 150 each. So that will increase the overall value. And there's a really great question in the chat box: how long does the title split take to how long does it take to complete the title split? The preparation time could be a month for the architect, a month for the solicitor. Then you do your paperwork, and it goes off the land registry. Then it could take up to 3 to 6 months to actually get through. So the whole process, 6, 7 months. But it's something that you're doing. You're not involved in that much. It's orchestrating the architect, the surveyor. You're orchestrating the whole plan, and then you need to, once you've got the plan, you do a little bit of work, and then you hand it over to people and you pay them, and so it's a very quick way for an investment of your own time, but it does take time in the background, but time goes by so quickly, so it's not a major problem there. I hope that answers the question. There was another question in the chat about KPI monitoring. What do you monitor? So we monitor mortgage rates is in terms of our own properties. I did that last week, and on a regular basis, you know, am I getting the right finance? Because the biggest cost to our business is wages and finance. So if you know, looking at the finance and the rates, am I paying too much? Calling the lender, calling Wayne's team and saying we need to do some remortgages to do some of this stuff. I've been talking to Doug and various other people over the last few years about, you know, having a lot of mortgages. So thinking, okay, maybe I just need less mortgages so I can remortgage and pay a smaller mortgage off. So to, you know, to have less mortgages, but to have the same amount of lending. So mortgage rates are really important. Void periods are so important as well. Monitoring voids, that your property is not earning you money because it's a liability. What else? Cash flow. Yeah, we sat down with Brian a couple of years ago, and he said cash flow statements are really, really important, because every business, every property business, or any business for that matter, that goes under is because they cannot service the loans. They cannot service the loans, the debt, etc. So it's all to do with cash flow. So as long as that cash flow is coming in, it's still brilliant. So you can, and over a period of time, if you've made a mistake on a property, it will correct itself as long as it's generating cash flow. We've converted some of our properties into HMOs, again, to get cash flow. We've done title splits. Again, it's a paperwork exercise. We're doing paperwork exercises in the background, converting HMOs, getting HMO licenses. So there's lots of strategies, putting them all together. But anyway, my good friend Lee is here this evening, and I hope he's not going to ask me too many difficult questions. But if you want to unmute yourself, Lee, I'll see you've got your hand up, so please feel free to ask a question. How are you?
Hi, Sunil. Can you hear me?
Yeah, very good, Lee. Good to see you.
Okay. Good to see you. I've got several questions actually. The first one, I'll just make you aware. Actually, just a quick note. I'm not sure whether you own a property or you rent out a property in the same block as me, just off of Bell Road. But I actually extended the lease on that. So I put a 90-year extension on it. And at the time, it was about 4 or 5 years ago, it gave me a 168-year lease on that property. So no issues with that one.
Lee,
I've got another one.
Lee, can you just cover that one, just for the benefit of our listeners? How much did it cost to extend the lease, and how long did it take you?
It probably took me a few months, and I believe it cost me about £5,000 or £6,000, which was good at the time, and it would have cost me less if I'd had my shoes and socks on, because the lease had dropped just under 80 years. I think it had dropped to 78 or 79 years at the time, and then I put the extension on 90 years. And for people that don't know, and I mean, I didn't realise at the time, if there's less than 80 years, it costs more to extend the lease. So it's something worth knowing.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Can I come in there? Can I come in there, Sunil?
Yes, certainly.
Sure.
Yeah, what the gentleman is talking about is marriage value. Until 80 years, the marriage value doesn't apply. But when it drops to 80 years below, there's a calculation for marriage, what they call marriage value, because it was deemed that if there's to be an increase in value of the property by extending the lease, then the freeholder should have a share in the value as well as the leaseholder. So that's the reason. That ridiculously, the marriage value is due to be outlawed by the outgoing Conservative government. Actually passed a bill which actually abolished the marriage value calculation. But unfortunately, in leaving office, they didn't put any timescales on it. So everybody's up in the air and doesn't know what the hell's happening. But we have been told as valuers that we, as it stands, have to abide by the old legislation. And therefore, for the moment, at least, until the Labour government gets its act in gear, we will still have to apply marriage value. So that's why it does get more, and it gets incrementally more expensive. Every year you go, the more expensive it gets.
Yeah, thank you, John. And there is
Yeah.
opportunities there as well for people to find these leases which have short periods on there, and then extend the leasehold period. I mean, we're just doing one at the moment where a lady's purchasing the lease. It's very short, but the value, of course, on the market has gone down. So the property would have been worth about 130. She's paying 70 for it because the lease is short. But once the lease has been increased, maybe 30, 40,000, there's still a profit to be made. So there is an opportunity there. So yeah, thank you for that, John. Lee, do come back in.
Yeah. So yeah, John's absolutely right. That's exactly what I got caught by. Unfortunately, I just about got me. Well, I did have my shoes and socks on, but I had them half on, so it wasn't quite as bad as it could have been. But I was just unaware of that point. So for anyone on the meeting that's not aware of it, they are now. Moving along, I believe either you, Sunil, own or you have another customer in Satis Avenue, the same as me. And I certainly would like some advice if it's available with regard to, I mean, that's a 1,000-year lease. I believe it's a 1,000-year lease, a peppercorn rent of nothing. So it's a virtual freehold. Unfortunately, there are occasions that I revert to very poor French with regard to that property. There's lots of good points about it. I don't want to sell it. However, there's no management agreement. And what I've tended to find, whether it's the guttering's gone, someone's aerial is causing a problem, whereby potentially it could come off and kill someone. You may remember the tree that was breaking up all the pavement, and the roots were heading towards the building. I'm just trying. I mean, actually, just the upkeep, the guttering I've done, the aerial I did, the tree I got tree surgeon in to have it removed. The lawns I have them cut twice a month. Now, at the end of the day, in my view, that shouldn't all fall on me. However, when it comes to doing anything and anyone putting their hand in their pocket and contributing, they suddenly have slopey shoulders. So now my suspicion is that the people that developed that particular building, or possibly even those properties, are now they're no longer in existence.
That's
So,
correct.
so my view is,
yeah,
the developer's
that's correct.
gone. There should be, you know, someone must be able to get hold of the lease. So you were talking earlier about land registry. Now I know that the top of Park Road, Gorcourt Road, the sports ground, if you look on the land registry, they have registered to me, I believe, and another, because I was chairman of the club and that land was never registered. So you have to go through a whole rigmarole of, no, people are not allowed to, you know, to have their sheep. It's been in this ownership for 100 and X years, and it costs money to get it resolved. But in my view, someone should hold the freehold of the property I'm talking about. And you know exactly, you, Sunil, know which one it is. And I have a view that even though it's a 1,000-year lease, perhaps with 950 years to run on it, there should be some kind of management agreement. I don't believe it's right that everything falls towards me. And I actually find that the landlord's insurance on that property is the most expensive that I've got, which suggests to me that the insurers want to lump the whole building onto me. So again, within a management agreement, the insurance would be within that.
Yeah,
There you go.
I hear what you're saying, Lee, and I do know what the properties that you're talking about. We have a number of examples here in Sittingbourne. I've got one in Stoke-on-Trent. Well, in Stoke-on-Trent, I own the ground floor leasehold, and it's on a 999-year lease. And the gentleman upstairs owns upstairs, and the agreement between us, or the agreement on the paperwork on the lease, says that I must give him £1 every year as he's my freeholder, and he must give me £1, and I'm the freeholder. And because we know each other, uh, we talk to each other and say, yeah, the gutters need doing, or the driveway needs sorting out, the rubbish needs collecting, whatever it is, and we agree to do it between us. We have no agreement, but it's just an informal that we are both doing it. We have another property here in Sittingbourne, which is 4 flats, and we have 3 landlords. So I own one, another gentleman owns 1 flat, and another gentleman owns 2 flats, so 4 in total. We had a management company buy this out from the freehold in London, and there is no very major communal areas, but they were charging us £2,500 a year for management charges. So we got together, us 3 landlords, and we said we'll do self-management. So we set up a self-management company, and we basically, if there's any repairs, the driveway needed doing, the gutters need cleaning, we will get together, get a quote, and get agreed. So in your situation, yes, it is getting hold of that the leaseholder, but they have to agree to it. There's nothing in place. If there's nothing in place, it is a gentleman's agreement and you can put paperwork in place, but initially you need a head of terms or them to agree that they're going to do that. You're not alone in that situation, because I think that whole estate, and I own property on the other side of the estate on Boulevard Drive, and that whole estate, the developer had sold out at the end, got their money because they didn't want to manage the road or the upkeep of the road. And yeah, I've had to pay more insurance, or I've had to do the repairs because the person downstairs on that particular one doesn't want to do it. And I think there's a lot. The management company were again, or not the management company, in that particular area, somebody was selling off the land. And we were invited to become a part of the committee, etc. Which I don't think it all went ahead, but yeah, I think it's trying to get hold of somebody, Lee, and trying to talk to them and see if they're going to agree. And I think it's a good idea, because you shouldn't get all the costs and etc. So yeah, happy to have a look at it for you. Give me a call tomorrow.
No, I mean, is Brian from UHY on here as well?
Yeah, he's here, but maybe catch up with him. Unless is it a specific question, or
Yeah, no, well, it's. I mean, my properties are sat with me, and I'm beginning to think maybe I should be placing them into a company. So
yeah, I think I mentioned last week, Lee, I don't know if you're on the call, but Brian,
yeah,
myself, Wayne, the broker, we're all happy to have a review with you on Zoom or something, or even if you want to come to the office, and then we can talk to them, because I know your circumstances, and a lot of us landlords are facing the same circumstances. We're getting older, and we need to do things. We need to look at, when we started doing things in the beginning, it was very different to where it is now, and we all think that we can continue forever, but we have to start thinking about the future as well. But yeah, it'd be good to get together.
yeah.
I don't know if you had any other questions, Lee.
No, thank you.
No, it's
Thanks,
good to
Sunil.
see you. It's good to see you. So thank you for the questions. I think there's so much value in there as well. So one of the questions in the chat is, yeah, Sunil, like you're mentioning about the title splitting and the drawings, etc. But the utilities, registering utilities, yeah, this is a challenging one with utilities, and it's always, if you're doing a development or if you're doing a converting property, get your application in for utilities very early, because it could cost you later. In the church that I showed you, we made an application near the end when it was all nearly finished, and they said, oh, we're really sorry, but somebody down the road has built another 30 flats, and they've taken all the energy supply. So you would have to pay, if you want electric, we'll give you electric, but you'd have to pay £30,000 to the substation. So I said, well, you didn't tell me that 2 years ago. Oh no, 2 years ago we could have supplied you because we had the power. Again, their timing, how long it takes, it can be a very long time. So it's much better to get those applications in early. Water, electric, gas. The only time they were really quick was during COVID because they didn't have any other jobs on. And we were very fortunate that we were still working at sites and they did react quite quickly. But registering the postal address, registering the utilities, it's all a paperwork exercise. It just takes time. So it's filling the applications in, giving them the drawings that we've got here so you can use them again and again. And yeah, showing them where it needs to go. Utilities are difficult at the best of times to get stuff. So getting in early, making sure you got the right company is going to be key. I hope that answers the question. I think it's about a 50% goes to the freeholder. I think that came back to the marriage allowance, John, but I'm not sure that that was the key.
Yeah, that's what they meant. The correct term is marriage value. It's the marriage value, and it's a 50% split of the calculation between the leaseholder and the freeholder. But obviously, that's what raises the premium, the final premium, so that the freeholder gets their bit. It's yeah, but it does make it makes the extension, the premium for extending the lease very much more expensive. And if if you've got a lease that's down to say 50 years, then it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. And lenders, and I have a friend he's in Knightsbridge. He's got a flat he's had for a long time, but the lease was never renewed. I think we're down to 16 years, and he's thinking, well, that's going to be costing him £1 million. In that area is going to be mega money.
Comfortably,
Yeah.
and yeah, well. I think he needs to be looking for an investor that's prepared to give him, as much as he can get.
Yeah,
that's
definitely
not a good position to be in. That really isn't.
So as you're creating the titles, yeah, there will be stamp duty. There is tax implications. Again, it's having somebody like Brian to look at those things because timing is correct. Timing is important to be able to do that. We had a pub with 3 apartments and 2 new builds, 5 in total with Barclays Bank. When that loan finished, Wayne's team got us 5 different mortgages, and we created 5 titles which were held by Family Homes. But Family Homes is an estate agency, so we didn't want to hold the property there. So then we transferred it into another company at the same time. So we got the new mortgages in the new company, created the leases, created the plans, and moved everything over at the same time. So you're only paying stamp duty at one time. So yeah, but you need the professionals around you to be able to do that, because if you get it incorrect in some respect, it can be very costly. But I'm saying in that particular instance, we moved away from one lender into 5 mortgages, which meant that we were able to borrow more money and to pay the first lender back and have money in the bank, and then move it all to a separate company, which if we ever wanted to sell Family Homes and as an estate agency, having assets in there would not be a good idea. So yeah, Wayne, do come in.
Simon, I was just going to say on the point of the marriage value coming in beneath 80 years, you're right. It's extortionate. It's exceptionally expensive. A lot of people don't realise that there are lenders, not all lenders, but a good proportion of the lenders there's no reason why we can't propose the application on the basis that you've got that statutory 90 years extension. So long as the extension is to take place simultaneous with completion of the mortgage, there are lenders that will lend against that enhanced value. So, if it's worth £80,000 now, but with £40,000 extension, it'll be worth 160 or 180. There are lenders where we can approach them on the basis that it won't have 48-year lease, it will have a 138-year lease. It will be valued at 180, and simultaneous with completion, the additional funds that they're raising can be used to facilitate that lease extension, so long as it's all happening at the same point in time. I think a lot of people sit there and think, crikey, I'm stuck here. You know, every year that goes on, I've got less and less money to spend to increase or to increase that lease, not realizing that actually it may be that they can borrow against the enhanced value of the property simultaneous with extending the lease.
Sounds to me, Wayne, like you and I could collaborate.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it, John.
Yeah, John, I'll pass your details on to Wayne and vice versa, because, you know, like I said, you both, you probably don't know each other, but you've both helped me out over the years on the same project, because, you know, you've got the valuation, or you set me up, John, and then, you know, we've gone to Wayne to get the finance, but you two guys have never got together. So it's good that you're here this evening. Can you recommend architects, please? It depends. The architect that you use depends on the type of project. So you get an architect that will do land, some will do conversion, some will do this. Every project is different. But the key point this evening is looking at your own portfolio, see where there's value, see where you can add more units, because that will create more value. Move things, as Lee said, into different companies away from yourself. And also you're looking at, also when you're looking at,
we've been hearing from a number of customers who said,
sorry, and when you're looking at properties, people say, oh, there's not a lot of properties on Rightmove or wherever. There are. It's just looking at them differently. Maybe this gives you a few more tools to go, oh yeah, I could title split that, or you could do that and this. Don't get me wrong. Go back 10, 15 years ago when I was buying a property, I wasn't thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to buy this because I'm then going to title split it. I'm going to do this. It wasn't like that. I'd buy the property and then, you know, sort of split it, put tenants in there. And it's only these last few years thinking, okay, you know, I can get clever with the paperwork and the refinancing and doing various things. And it's having, as I keep saying, having people around you that can help you to do that. So is there any final questions? Because we normally go until about, I've got 10, 15 minutes, but if the question...
Sunil,
Yes.
somebody's asked in the group chat about any architects. Obviously, I've got my colleague Rosario Russo, who is I would say this, wouldn't I? But he is an extremely good architect, and he deals with all manner of properties. He regularly gets asked to design estates of 60, 70 flats. He does extensions. He does the full range. So if anybody would like to contact me, I can put you in touch with Rosario. Very, very good RIBA architect.
Yeah, I mean, if you need anything, reach out. We've also got a WhatsApp group. So John's on the WhatsApp group. Brian's on there. There's a lot of people on that WhatsApp group. There's about 800 people on there. A lot of them are service providers. A lot of them are investors. Put your details in there. Ask your question, and then somebody will answer that. So if you've got a finance question, I mean, Cash is on there. These guys are all on there, and they do work together. It's not a case of, you know, it's all competition. So if you're looking at architects, etc., again, that will help. Dan will put the link to the WhatsApp group, and then you'll get the link to this meeting and in-person meeting on a regular basis. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. Dan, are you there? So right at the top of the chat, you'll see the WhatsApp link. And I mean, those of you on the WhatsApp, you're probably aware it can get very busy. So yeah, I don't follow it all the time because I'm busy, but I do look at it regularly to see if there's anything that we can put on there. So yeah, Nick,
I've just shared the link to the WhatsApp group on the chat.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. I hope that's been useful. Are there any other questions that anybody has? Leo, we'll catch up in the next day or so. Clive, were you looking to say something earlier? Did I? No. Oh, I've just seen Nebby. Nebby, did you want to just unmic for a second? Because he brought a block of 4 flats, didn't you, Nebby? Did you want to just tell us your story?
Yeah, sure. So I purchased a block of 4 flats about this time last year. It's a block of 4 flats in Halifax. So we purchased it under a freehold title. But this was our first one. So it's on a mortgage on a 2-year fixed. So the plan is to actually title split this year. So we'll be looking to start the process in a few months.
Yeah, great. Yeah, we're getting together. So if you need anything on that, then happy to help. You know, sort of the process.
Thanks, Sunil.
The process for me was like, it's like anything else. It's like driving. It's like doing anything. Once you learn it, you can use it over and over, and you know, teach other people as well. So yeah, brilliant and great achievement there, Nebby, with your flats up in the north. That's fantastic. Doug, hello. Yeah, can you unmute, Doug, or do you want me to do it? Can you unmute yourself?
Here you go. I'm there.
Well done.
Yeah, I don't want to put any spoilers on what you've mentioned this evening, because you've provided some fantastic information. But my experience this year, particularly having dealt with many leasehold properties, is that there are many solicitors no longer dealing with leasehold properties. Some are restricted to maximum 4 stories in the block. Some solicitors are not dealing with them at all, simply because of the complications of some leasehold properties have been created over the years with multiple managers, some managing agents collecting ground rent, some collecting the rent charge, and others collecting the service charge. So you may have 3, 4 different managing companies on one leasehold title. So my experience over those, say, the last 12 months is that it's become more and more difficult to find a solicitor to deal with leaseholds. So I'm not suggesting that people forget about leaseholds, because they're a good way of obviously building your portfolio, but it's very important to do your due diligence before you actually get involved. And there was a mention by Lee this evening about 999-year leaseholds without a freeholder putting in place the managing company. Therefore, no service charges being collected. Very difficult to insure a building with those. Those particular leaseholds become unsaleable. You can only sell them to a cash buyer. I, in fact, have one myself, which I've owned probably 15 years, and I can only sell it to a cash buyer because there's no service charge being collected. So just really for new people, just be very cautious. If you're going to buy a leasehold, it's not all streets paved with gold.
No, Doug, and I agree with you. And if I came across like to say this is a golden opportunity, it is. But anything that you do, yeah, you have to be very cautious. In my youth, I bought a flat in Gillingham. We go back a number of years. It was 16,500, and there was a missing landlord. I didn't know what a missing landlord meant at that time. But the solicitors had exchanged, and then he came and said, "Well, can you send me the rest of the money over?" I said, "Well, yeah, I'm going to get a mortgage." No, you won't be able to get a mortgage. There's a missing freehold. Anyway, I got the money. We got it through. That landlord, there was a lease, and the landlord had disappeared basically, and there was no ground rent charges. They were not making anything on there. We couldn't find him, so there are properties out there which are great value, and that was a great value property because it gave good rental income because it was low to buy. Because, like you said, Doug, nobody wanted it. You know, it was a good. It had to be a cash buyer, and I think I held it for about 15 years, and I did actually end. I then sold it in the auction about 86,000. I got the rent and the increase of the 70 grand increase over a period of time, which was great because time had just gone on because I bought it in the 90s. So, yeah, the not having a landlord is sometimes more problematic. So, you know, this is where Lee was talking about that they've got 2 flats, but because there's no landlord, he's stuck in what he's doing. So, but that doesn't mean you can still buy the property. There are complications, and as long as you're aware of those and you can make money from it, then it's good. So, but yeah, just I think what Doug's point was is like Capital Mtor, be aware of what you're doing and make sure that you don't go in blind. And I think that's a really good point to finish on. Unless anybody's got any other points or questions, then we'll be back in the room in a couple of weeks' time in March. I can't remember the date, and then back on Zoom as well. Any other questions from anybody or comments? If you need to reach out to Brian, our accountant, or Wayne or something, then drop us an email or a text and etc. And we'll do that, and we can get you in contact with people as well. And we've got other contacts as well. Again, I think in the past when I started, and a lot of the guys who started many years ago, property can be lonely, but it's no longer because there's so much community, there's so many opportunities, there's so many people, and it's probably the only industry where people are looking to help and go, yeah, look, this is what we did, and if you need any help, you know, I'll pass you on to somebody, and they can help you, or we can help you, etc. So you don't need. There's no loneliness at the moment. You know, there's WhatsApps which weren't around, Zoom meetings that weren't around. So the technology is all there for us all to come together and beat the government, I think. Any other comments? No. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Brian. Thanks for everyone for joining, and we'll see you very soon. Happy
Thanks,
investing.
Anil.
Take care. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for everything.
Thanks all.
Thanks, Anil. Cheers.
Take care.